The silent threat. In the depths of space, first speaker Lyra of the Galactic Alliance stood before the observation dome's curved window, her silver scales reflecting the dying light of what had once been the Centauri cluster. Where thousands of stars should have glittered, only darkness remained. The entity they called the Void had consumed another sector of space, leaving nothing in its wake. First speaker, the Emergency Council is assembled, her aide, Vex, announced from behind her. The small crystalline being's facets pulsed with anxiety. Lyra turned from the window, her ceremonial robes whispering against the polished floor. How many systems have we lost since yesterday? 17, first speaker. The Void's rate of consumption is accelerating. The Grand Chamber of the Alliance buzzed with the nervous energy of 200 species representatives. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others sat in specialized environmental chambers, but all fell silent as Lyra took her place at the central podium. The Void cannot be reasoned with, she began, her translator converting her words into 200 different languages simultaneously. It cannot be contained. Our most advanced energy barriers dissipate at its touch. Our quantum weapons pass through it without effect. Even our attempt to evacuate the Centauri cluster failed. Our fastest ships couldn't outrun it. The chamber erupted in frightened whispers. A mechanoid representative raised their primary appendage. What of the archived solutions? Surely in our 100,000 years of civilization, we have faced similar threats. Lyra activated the central hologram, displaying the ancient records. We searched. There is only one reference to a similar entity from the time before the Alliance. It was defeated, but the records are fragmentary. They mention only the primitive solution and weapons of base matter. Base matter. The mechanoid's lights flickered in confusion. No advanced civilization has used physical weapons in millennia. They're inefficient, crude. And perhaps, interrupted Counselor Dax, his gelatinous form rippling with excitement, exactly what we need. There is one civilization that still employs such methods, one that we have deliberately kept isolated, because we feared their violent nature and primitive weapons. Realization spread through the chamber. The humans of Earth. Impossible, shouted the mechanoid. They're quarantined for a reason. Their history is nothing but warfare. They still use explosives, projectiles, and atomic weapons. They're dangerous. Lyra raised her hand for silence. Yes, they are dangerous. But the Void adapts to every energy weapon we use against it. Perhaps it cannot adapt to what it has never encountered. Physical ammunition, nuclear warheads, primitive but potent weapons that operate on principles the Void has never faced. We've monitored their development, Vex added, projecting new data. Despite their isolation, they've advanced remarkably. They've reversed engineered technology from our observation probes, combining it with their own marshaled innovation. Their ships use both matter and energy-based weapons. They're unique in the galaxy. Lyra surveyed the chamber. I propose we break their quarantine, not to ask for their crude weapons, but to request their help as equals. Their entire history has been about adapting, surviving, finding unconventional solutions. We need that perspective now. And if they refuse? Someone asked. They won't, Lyra said with certainty. If there's one thing humans understand, it's fighting against impossible odds. And if there's another thing they understand, it's protecting others, even those who once shunned them. The vote was quick, driven by desperation. Within hours, Lyra stood before a quantum communicator, preparing to contact Earth for the first time in 3 centuries. As she activated the signal, she reflected on the irony. The Alliance had quarantined humanity to protect the galaxy from their warlike nature. Now that same nature might be the galaxy's only hope for survival. The screen flickered to life, showing a stern-faced human woman in a dark uniform adorned with gold insignia. This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Defense Force. After 300 years of silence, you have our attention. Looking into the human's determined eyes, Lyra felt something she hadn't experienced since the void first appeared. Hope. Children of War. Admiral Helena Chen stood in the command center of Titan Base, Earth's largest military installation, watching technicians prepare the EDF Prometheus for its first interstellar mission. The massive ship's dark hull seemed to absorb the light of Saturn's rings behind it, its unconventional design a testament to humanity's unique path of development. "Admiral, the Alliance data packet has finished processing," reported Dr. Sarah Martinez, head of Technoscience. Her dark eyes gleamed with excitement as she manipulated the holographic display. "Their void is unlike anything we theorized. It's not just consuming matter. It's consuming space-time itself." "Show me the simulation," Chen ordered, her expression unchanging as the hologram displayed entire star systems vanishing into absolute darkness. 3 centuries of isolation had taught humanity to treat every potential threat seriously. "The Alliance's energy weapons pass right through it," Sarah continued. "Their quantum shields can't stop it. They've lost over 40 systems in the past month alone." Chen nodded slowly. "Because they abandoned physical warfare millennia ago. They forgot that sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective." She turned to the viewport, watching crews load the last of the tungsten rods into the Prometheus's mass drivers. "What's the status of Project Ragnarok?" "The prototypes are ready," a gravelly voice answered. General Viktor Petrov limped into the command center, his cybernetic leg whirring softly. 30 megaton yield, hardened casings, and old-fashioned chemical propulsion. Just like our ancestors used, but with a few modern improvements. Chen allowed herself a small smile. When the Alliance quarantined Earth, they expected humanity to eventually abandon their warlike nature. Instead, isolation had refined it. Every advancement in energy weapons was matched by improvements in ballistic technology. Every shield breakthrough was paired with better armor. Humanity refused to put all their trust in any single approach to defense. "The Prometheus is our masterpiece," Petrov continued, gesturing at the massive ship. "Rail guns that can accelerate projectiles to near-light speed, nuclear missiles with quantum-entangled warheads, kinetic kill vehicles alongside plasma cannons. The Alliance called us primitive, but we learned to combine the best of both worlds." "Admiral," Sarah interrupted, her voice tense. "New data from the Alliance. The void has changed course. It's accelerating toward the Arcturus sector. Population 50 billion. Chen straightened her uniform. "How long until the Prometheus is ready?" "Final system checks completing now," Petrov reported. "Crew is already aboard. Captain Rodriguez reports all weapons systems are green. The Alliance Council is waiting for our response," Sarah added. "They're expecting us to request a formal meeting, exchange protocols, establish diplomatic channels." "No time for diplomacy," Chen cut her off. "Send them our coordinates and tell them to clear a path." The Prometheus launches in 30 minutes. As her officers rushed to comply, Chen studied the tactical display showing the void's progress. The Alliance had spent centuries looking down on humanity's martial culture, their primitive weapons, their refusal to embrace pure energy-based technology. They never understood that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons. It was their mindset. Humans never stopped preparing for the worst, never stopped imagining new threats, never stopped finding new ways to fight. When the Alliance abandoned physical weapons, they lost the ability to think in physical terms. But humans kept that knowledge alive, combining it with every new advancement they could steal or reverse engineer. "Admiral," Sarah said softly, "the Alliance representatives are shocked by our rapid response. They're asking if we understand the gravity of the situation." Chen's lip curled slightly. "Tell them we understand perfectly. Humanity has spent 300 years preparing for a war that never came. Now that war is here, it's just not the one we expected." The Prometheus's engines flared to life, its massive form rising from the Titan shipyards. Chen watched it ascend, carrying humanity's best weapons and brightest minds toward their first interstellar conflict. The Alliance had quarantined Earth because they feared humanity would bring war to the stars. Instead, humanity would bring survival. First contact renewed. The Prometheus emerged from its final jump point at the edge of Alliance space, its dark hull reflecting the light of unfamiliar stars. On the bridge, Captain Maya Rodriguez watched her crew manage their stations with practiced efficiency, though she could sense their underlying tension. After 3 centuries, humanity was about to rejoin galactic society through the crucible of war. Multiple Alliance vessels detected. Lieutenant Park announced from tactical. They're maintaining distance, reading energy signatures consistent with defensive postures. Maya smiled grimly. Of course they were afraid. The Prometheus was unlike anything in their fleet, a hybrid of stolen technology and human ingenuity, bristling with weapons the Alliance had long ago abandoned. Maya smiled grimly. Of course they were afraid. The Prometheus was unlike anything in their fleet, a hybrid of stolen technology and human ingenuity, bristling with weapons the Alliance had long ago abandoned. Captain, Communications Officer Chen spoke up. Incoming transmission from the Alliance flagship. First Speaker Lyra requests permission to come aboard. Granted. Prepare the diplomatic deck. Maya turned to her XO. Commander Walsh, you have the bridge. I'll greet our guests. The diplomatic deck had been specifically designed for this moment, its atmosphere and gravity adjustable to accommodate various alien physiologies. Maya stood straight as the Alliance delegation materialized in the reception area, her dress uniform crisp despite the artificial gravity fluctuations. First Speaker Lyra stepped forward, her silvery scales shimmering under the lights. Behind her, various Alliance representatives stared wide-eyed at the visible weapon emplacements along the corridor walls. Captain Rodriguez, Lyra began, her translator converting her harmonic speech. Your rapid response is unexpected. We had prepared extensive diplomatic protocols. With respect, First Speaker, Maya interrupted, we can exchange pleasantries after we deal with the void. Our sensors detected its energy signature. It's accelerating faster than your reports indicated. A crystalline being. Vex, according to the briefing. Pulsed with agitation. You cannot simply engage the void without proper analysis. Our finest minds have studied it for months. And failed to stop it, Maya countered. She gestured to the holoprojector. Dr. Martinez, share our preliminary findings. Sarah's image appeared, surrounded by data streams. The void isn't just consuming matter. It's consuming the fundamental forces holding space together. That's why energy weapons fail. They're just feeding it more of what it already consumes. We know this. An Alliance scientist interrupted. We've tried everything in our arsenal. Everything in your arsenal, Maya emphasized. But you forgot the basics. The fundamental forces may be failing, but inertia still works. Mass still works. Nuclear forces still work. You just stopped using them. She brought up the tactical display. We've developed a 3-phase strategy. First, we use kinetic weapons. Tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed, not to destroy the void, but to map its reactions to physical impact. Primitive ballistics. Someone scoffed. Second, Maya continued, ignoring the interruption, we deploy our modified nuclear arsenal, not for the explosion, for the electromagnetic pulse and radiation effects. We need to understand how it responds to different types of energy. Lyra's eyes widened. You still use nuclear weapons. Finally, Maya said, we combine everything we know about physical and energy-based warfare into a single assault. But for this to work, we need the Alliance fleet. Our weapons are useless against it, Vex protested. Your weapons alone are useless, Maya corrected, but combined with ours, coordinated properly. She let the implication hang in the air. Lyra studied the tactical display, her expression unreadable. You developed all this from just our initial data packet. We've spent 3 centuries preparing for every possible threat, Maya replied. When you're isolated, you learn to be thorough. We had 50 different invasion response scenarios ready before you even contacted us. The Alliance representatives exchanged glances. They had quarantined humanity for being too warlike, too primitive, too focused on conflict. Now those same qualities might be their salvation. The Arcturus sector has 2 days before the Void reaches its first populated system. Lyra said finally, "Can your ship be ready?" Maya's smile was fierce. "First speaker, we were ready before we left Earth. The real question is, are you ready to fight our way?" As the Alliance delegation absorbed this, alarm klaxons suddenly blared through the ship. "Captain to the bridge." Commander Walsh's voice carried urgency. "The Void. It's changed course again. It's heading straight for us." Maya met Lyra's alarmed gaze. "Looks like we'll get to test our theories sooner than planned. First speaker, I suggest you return to your ship. The Prometheus is about to demonstrate why humanity never stopped preparing for war. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the old ways were the best ways, and humanity had kept those ways alive, honing them into an art form the Alliance had forgotten was possible. The battle that never was. The Void loomed before the Prometheus like a tear in reality itself, a darkness deeper than space. On the bridge, Captain Rodriguez watched as their sensors struggled to make sense of the phenomenon that had brought the mighty Alliance to its knees. "All hands, battle stations," Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Begin Phase 1. Lieutenant Park's fingers danced across his tactical console. "Mass drivers 1 through 12 ready. Targeting solutions calculated. Speed set to 0.92 C. The Prometheus shuddered as the first salvo of tungsten rods launched. Their specially crafted forms accelerated to near-light speed. The Alliance fleet watched in fascinated horror as these primitive weapons streaked toward the Void. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The rods struck the Void's leading edge. For the first time in recorded history, something affected it. The darkness rippled, distorting like a pond's surface disturbed by stones. "Data incoming." Dr. Martinez's voice crackled over the comm. "The physical impacts are creating waves in its structure. It's not just absorbing them, it's reacting." Maya leaned forward. As predicted, it evolved to consume energy, but it never learned to handle good old-fashioned kinetic force. Launch second salvo. More rods streaked out, this time targeting the points where the first impacts had caused distortions. The Void's surface rippled more violently. "Energy readings fluctuating," Park reported. "It's struggling to maintain cohesion where we hit it." First speaker, Maya called to the Alliance flagship. "We've found its weakness. Execute Phase 2. Deploy the modified warheads." The Alliance representatives had been horrified when they learned humans still used nuclear weapons. Now they watched in awe as specially designed warheads launched from the Prometheus's missile tubes. "Nuclear detonation in 5. Park counted down. The explosions were unlike anything the Alliance had ever seen. The warheads had been modified to maximize their electromagnetic pulse and radiation effects while minimizing the thermal blast. Where they detonated, the Void's darkness seemed to thin, becoming almost translucent. The combination of physical trauma and radiation is disrupting its ability to consume spacetime. Dr. Martinez's excitement was palpable. The nuclear forces are interfering with whatever process it uses to break down matter. Maya nodded grimly. "Now for Phase 3. Alliance fleet, move into position. Prepare to fire on my mark." The Alliance ships formed up behind the Prometheus, their energy weapons powered but holding fire. They had seen enough to trust the human strategy. "Load the hybrid rounds," Maya ordered. "All mass drivers, prepare for rapid fire." Engineering. Divert power to the experimental weapon. Deep in the Prometheus's hull, a weapon of last resort powered up. A device that combined humanity's mastery of physical warfare with stolen Alliance technology. A quantum-enhanced mass driver designed to fire projectiles that existed in multiple states simultaneously. "Target locked," Park announced. "Hybrid rounds loaded. Alliance fleet in position. Maya took a deep breath. Everything hinged on perfect timing. Fire hybrid rounds. Alliance fleet, engage with all energy weapons on my mark. The hybrid rounds struck first, their quantum uncertain state preventing the void from adapting to them. Where they hit, reality itself seemed to hiccup, creating gaps in the darkness. Alliance fleet, fire. Energy weapons lanced out from hundreds of ships, but instead of being absorbed, they passed through the gaps created by the hybrid rounds, striking the void's suddenly vulnerable core. The effect was catastrophic. The void's darkness began to fold in on itself, unable to maintain cohesion under the combined assault of physical and energy attacks. Where it had been consuming space-time, now it was being torn apart by the very forces it had once commanded. "It's working," Dr. Martinez shouted. The physical impacts disrupted its structure. The radiation interfered with its consumption process, and now the combined attack is. A blinding flash lit up space. When it faded, where the void had been, only normal space remained, studded with stars. Silence fell over the bridge. 3 centuries of isolation, of preparing for threats that never came, had culminated in this moment. Humanity's primitive weapons, combined with their ability to adapt and innovate, had accomplished what the Alliance's advanced technology alone could not. First speaker, Maya called, allowing herself a small smile. "I believe this concludes our demonstration of primitive warfare." Lyra's voice came back filled with something new. Respect. "Captain Rodriguez, humanity has done more than save the galaxy. You've reminded us of something we'd forgotten. Sometimes the old ways, combined with the new, are the most effective of all." Maya looked at her crew, each face showing pride mixed with relief. First speaker, "I think it's time we discussed ending that quarantine. Humanity has much to teach the galaxy, and perhaps much to learn as well." The void was gone, and with it, the barriers that had kept humanity isolated. A new age was dawning, one where the galaxy would have to accept that sometimes the most primitive solution was also the most elegant. A new dawn. 3 months after the destruction of the void, the grand chamber of the Alliance hummed with activity. But this time, instead of fear, anticipation filled the air. At the center of the chamber, first speaker Lyra stood beside Admiral Helena Chen, watching representatives from 200 species witness a historic moment. "The quarantine ends today," Lyra announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "Humanity has proven themselves not just warriors, but guardians. Their victory over the void was not just about weapons. It was about perspective." Admiral Chen stepped forward, her dress uniform gleaming under the chamber's lights. "For 3 centuries, we prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Isolation taught us to be self-reliant, but it also taught us the value of keeping all options open, both old and new." On the massive display behind them, the EDF Prometheus hung in space alongside newly commissioned Alliance vessels. The new ships looked different, hybrid designs incorporating both energy and physical weapon systems, a visible symbol of the changes sweeping through galactic society. "The Prometheus didn't just save us from the void," Lyra continued. "It showed us our own blind spot. In our rush to advance, we abandoned tools that still had value. We forgot that progress doesn't always mean replacing the old. Sometimes it means building upon it." Dr. Sarah Martinez approached the podium, carrying data crystals. These contain the full technical specifications of our hybrid weapon systems, but more importantly, they contain our methodologies. How we learn, how we adapt, how we combine different approaches to solve problems. The Alliance Council members murmured in appreciation. Already, the changes were visible. Alliance ships now carried physical armor alongside their energy shields. Defense platforms incorporated kinetic weapons alongside quantum arrays. But the biggest change wasn't in their technology. It was in their thinking. 3 centuries ago, Admiral Chen said, "You quarantined us because you feared our warlike nature. You saw only the violence in our history, not the innovation that drove it. not the determination to survive that fueled it, not the desire to protect that guided it. She gestured to the new ships. Look at what we've accomplished in just 3 months of cooperation. Your energy weapons enhanced by our physical delivery systems. Our nuclear technology refined by your quantum science. This is just the beginning. Captain Rodriguez, standing with her crew in the gallery, smiled as she watched several Alliance scientists excitedly discussing modifications to their defensive systems with human engineers. The barriers were coming down, not just politically, but culturally. But perhaps the most important lesson, Lyra added, was about balance. Humanity never abandoned their past in their quest for the future. They kept what worked, improved what didn't, and most importantly, they never stopped questioning, never stopped preparing, never stopped adapting. The chamber erupted in applause as Admiral Chen and First Speaker Lyra signed the formal agreement ending humanity's quarantine. But it was more than just a diplomatic document. It was an acknowledgement that progress didn't always mean what they thought it meant. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Martinez approached Captain Rodriguez. The Alliance Science Council wants to establish joint research facilities. They're particularly interested in our hybrid technology program. And we're interested in their quantum mechanics, Rodriguez replied. Turns out we both have a lot to learn from each other. From the chamber's highest tier, Admiral Chen watched the various species mingling, sharing ideas, breaking down barriers that had stood for centuries. Humanity had entered galactic society, not through peaceful advancement as the Alliance had hoped, nor through violent conquest as they had feared, but through something entirely different, the demonstration that strength comes in many forms, and the wisest path is to embrace them all. The stars outside the chamber seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the dawn of a new era, an era where humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization turned out to be not their weapons or their technology, but their perspective, their unique ability to bridge the gap between old and new, between primitive and advanced, between the past they honored and the future they sought. The quarantine was over. The real journey was just beginning.